So far, there's been a fight between the Kurokumo Clan and the Blade lineage, and Limbus Company has been caught in the middle. After taking care of the Kurokumo Clan members, an unfamiliar face greeted them. A woman sitting on the frontmost seat of the bus. Urtis told Virgilius that she found this interesting. They both made it clear that no guests were to board the bus without prior consultation. This discussion wasn't even an hour ago. Virgilius made it clear that he said no outsiders, asking if it was clear who she was. Virgilius, there's a difference between not knowing the details and keeping them in the dark, unless you were informed of this during the most recent fight, and then she boarded the bus before they arrived back. In that case, it can't be helped. She was wearing a dark blue uniform with a red shirt, with clear on her chest. Dante asked if she was from the before team. She then told Manager Clock that she was with the after team. Ishmael asking if she can hear what they're saying. She couldn't. It was just easy to tell with that blank, stupid look that they were giving her. Wow, what a call. Ishmael was about to ask in anger if she even had the common decency to mince her words, but she stopped before completing her sentence, partly because she knew that she didn't have that capacity, but also because Ishmael recalled her old attitude. This woman was team leader Kaiman of the After Team, Normal Operations Unit 2. This was the first time they've met someone from the After Team in person. Heathcliff didn't think that they'd meet anyone from that, as they sweep in and pick up the spoils after they're done with all the hard work. Kaiman then set the record straight for the back streets mutt, which stunned him. She saw the after team as those that clear up the mess that the ungrateful wastes of lives leave behind. Rather than sweep in and pick up the spoils, they sweep up their stinking under the rug. Ooh, is this how those that clear up after others and get nothing but derision feel? Because I wouldn't blame them. Ishmael asked if that's how the after team sees them. Kaiman then gave them the full list of what a much fuller list, rather, of what the after team thinks of them. Waste of lives, bumper cars, the most expensive bus in the world, meat shields, maniacs with more luck than they deserve, among others. She didn't see it as the most relevant conversation at this time, though. I see their reputation precedes them. Then again, Sod had a similar opinion of them, yet that changed. I suspect it'll take longer for Kaiman to do so, as she seems much less forgiving. This Heathcliff off, threatening her to change her tone. Clearly, Kaiman wasn't instructed in the art of diplomacy. Nor was she instructed that it's unwise to people off without a good reason. Kaiman then said that she would, once he gives her good reason, She has a personal philosophy to be stubbornly set in her ways unless she has a good reason to change. Well, that's certainly better than a lot of bigots in reality. As for Heathcliff, he has the ability to deliver blunt force trauma, which he was all too willing to do so, if he was pushed too far. He was also quite willing to do so, and I don't think he cares if he's unsure if he can get away with it. He'd see it as settled. If she urinated herself in terror, as for the golden bars, she sees that as unworthy of respect for the half-wit idiots that don't give a about those that clear up after them. Ooh, I thought that those involved in the Barbie movie were full of resentment for being snubbed for a lot of awards, where a movie about a scientist that worked for the US government on making nuclear weapons got more nominations and wins. Virgilius then told her that was enough. This made Kaiman back off somewhat, understanding that she wasn't there to reprimand them. That's right, that's Virgilius's job! Apparently she was there to relay orders from the head office. She produced an envelope, pulling out a paper from within. She read it out loud. There's been an additional mission assignment prior to the Golden Bar retrieval in the Nesta District 20. 1. Eliminate and/or secure the distortion in the area. 2. Recover the monolith, an artifact in the shape of a black stele from the same site. Wait, monolith? Seriously? They're referencing 2001: A Space Odyssey now? Dante didn't know what that was. Sinclair was troubled by the mention of distortion, asking if they've already distorted. Kaiman doesn't know. She lacks clearance to know that. She was just ordered to relay that info, as she had a job that she was doing in District 20 at that time, implying that she saw that job as beneath her. Otis argued that their only mission was to recover the golden bars, asking since when did it become their job to play errand boy fixers. Kaiman told them that it was since now, apparently, seeing no difference between an errand boy and their team, as all they do is pick up and deliver the golden bars. It's more complicated than that. They have to fight a load of syndicate thugs, peccatulum, and abnormalities to get them. Never mind the rest of it. In District 10, they had to run away from Baba Yaga, who was too big to fight. In District 11, they had to fight N-Corp Psycho Division, whose leader distorted when they cornered her, and after that, they had to fight 2 that manifested EGO, along with make the deal with the CEO of K-Corp, just to get out of there with the golden bar. In District 21, they had a number of tough fights at sea, and inside one of the calamities to get that golden bar, it wasn't as simple as delivering the goods to the destination, as the Deviat Association fixers do, and they had their own hazards to deal with as well. Roger suspected that the after team was full of is like her. Not a pleasant thought to imagine the whole department of those like her. Kaiman made a sweeping look at the others and then approached Dante, addressing Manager Clock, who was surprised at being addressed directly. She told them to just listen, as she can't hear them anyway. She decided to explain some things to them and their minions, since they were all out of the loop. Well, Virgilius clearly isn't talking, either that or the higher-ups don't trust him with that info. She leaned against the bus seat as though she was about to start a lecture. She can't deny that the primary objective of Team Damned was to retrieve the golden bowels. But this specialization isn't the smartest of business models. Ishmael was wondering about the company's finances for a while, asking where they get their funding from. I really hope that isn't Lady Diaz, as she's the one that wants to rule in hell after overthrowing the head. Kaiman told her that she need not concern herself about the company's finances. They have more than enough capital to do what they want. As for what the company is lacking, it's public standing and a cause. Dante is unsure what she means by this. Kaiman then mentioned that Limbus Company's cause was to be in distortions, as no significant organizations have taken charge in managing instances of the distortion phenomenon. Dante remembered that Faust told them that it wasn't that long since distortions began appearing in the city. Either she's unaware of the Blood Fiends, a form of distortion that predated the White Nights and Dark Days, or she's withholding that info. Kaiman explained that Limbus Company is building a reputation as a professional distortion prevention and control company that doubles as a research center for the distortion phenomenon, which means that they need to produce real results in more ways than one. Honglu heard that it's pretty annoying to deal with, clearly not mentioning how they dealt with Papa Bongi on their way to the second Golden Bar of District 11. Kaiman continued by saying that none have properly defined what the distortions truly are. Not many are even willing to jump into dealing with it blind. Kaiman did hear that some were preparing to launch an association primarily dealing with distortions, but that's all this was. An association. They need Limbus Company to deal with it on a corporate level. Ah yes, the now non-canon after-credit scene of Library of Ruina, yes. Where Iori the Purple Tear calls for the formation of a 13th association, one that specialized in dealing with the distortion phenomenon. Likely whatever 13 is in Hebrew. Which is complicated as it's said differently depending on whether it has a male or female context. But it's likely lads. So while it's unlikely to involve Iori, it looks like they're still working on that 13th association. Heathcliff asked how that's any of their business. Why should they go out of their way to fight distortions? Kaiman told him that this came all the way from the top, the highest authority of their company, asking if they didn't teach him how to follow orders in the slums. Clearly Kaiman was from a nest, if that's her attitude. Heathcliff's patience was running out, not wanting her to leave that bus alive. Kaiman ignored his clear murderous intent, or at least the intent to make sure that she consumes her meals through a straw in the immediate future, and tells Dante that she has the same attitude towards the Damned Dozen as the higher-ups in Limbus Company. How that will be affected will be, it depends on their choices and their leadership. She then produced another envelope and handed it over, telling them that it's up to them. Yes, they could focus on the primary mission. The company won't fire them and their meat shields, but she mentioned that the company's treatment of them might change, depending on what they decide to do. Yeah. Why do I get the feeling that she has a metaphorical knife hidden behind her? And she's waiting for Dante to turn around. So the higher-ups have about as high an opinion of the damn dozen as a music critic in the Bible Belt reviewing a black metal band. There's the implication that if they don't do this, the treatment of them will be invariably harsher. As for if they do well, it's possible that the treatment will become better. Sorry, I see that as unlikely, but possible. At worst, they'll look for someone to blame if something goes wrong. Dante was aware of this, at least in some form. Virgilius was listening to this silently. Then Cayman told Virgilius that she'll be leaving now, implying that they're likely to meet again. Virgilius acknowledged this, but told her that he preferred it if she watched her language. Those meat shields are still under his guidance, advising that she tries not to disturb them as well. Roughly translated, don't talk about these emotional retards. Don't do my job. Kaiman told him that it depends on what Dante does. She then left, leaving nothing but awkward silence behind. Heathcliff asking if that bloody prick was gone. This made everyone sigh with relief and complaining as if they'd just been gagged. And then ungagged. Gregor almost burst a blood vessel listening to all that verbal abuse. Clearly his temper hadn't softened with age. Dante complimented rather, that their restraints kept this non-violent, at least long enough for Kaiman to say what she wanted to say and then leave. aeng-du didn't think any of what she says was wrong. Massault saw her manner of speech as quite convenient. No reading between the lines, she meant what she said. He understood her and organized his thoughts perfectly. I suspect that it would take a lot for Massault to react with visible rage. Ishmael saw it as one way of putting it. She accepted that Kaiman was right. They have no say in this matter. The company wants them to do their jobs, so they do their jobs. Ortis can't argue against that, as, well, she has no issues about following orders. Dante agrees with them. Dante then opened the envelope. There was a walkie-talkie inside, along with a bunch of signed and stamped paperwork. Possibly to do with getting into the nest, and much to Dante's surprise, a letter saying mission location Yongjin Building. Virgilius telling Charon to go. Charon understood that Virg wants her to go to Yongjin. She's feeling it. Buzz, buzz. There they would go. Vroom, vroom. It was clear to Dante that based on their lack of surprise, that they both already knew where to go. I hope for their sake that the reason that they went into the battlefield was to retrieve aeng-du and not for her intelligence, as it seems that gathering intel from her was largely pointless. During their journey towards their destination, Dante couldn't get a question out of their head during the frequent stops and combat encounters, something that they couldn't understand. They should be used to this from Virgilius by now, but if he knew where they were going and why, Why didn't he tell them for once? As that's his job. They were thinking this as aeng-du slept, still out cold. They told Faust that this was something that they had to talk about, asking her to translate their question for them. Faust hesitated to do so. Ortis was visibly annoyed by this, saying that if Faust won't do it, she will. This journey isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Some friction is necessary. She then called out to Virgilius, translating for Dante and sharing some of her own grievances with him. A lot of them. She found this slightly amusing, asking if she's finished. Well, they're not wrong. He did hear most of the details through the radio. As for why he didn't tell them in advance, it's because he believed that they're the kind of people who never learn until the problem crashes through the front door. Would they have done anything differently if they knew in advance? In fact, it would give them an excuse to whine about it. I think it's even worse if they're kept in the dark. Then he asked Dante if he'll refuse the mission. After hearing that, Dante didn't think there'd be any point in doing so. The higher-ups are already treating them like dirt. They can't imagine how much worse it'll get. Oh, you don't want to know. It always gets worse. Virgilius didn't need a translation for that part. Well, the parts that matter. He anticipated the response, making Dante question if he really can't hear them. Then he noticed that aeng-du was awake, advising Dante to ask her for directions, as Charon's intuition can only take them so far. Yeah, she takes Mephistopheles all over the place. Honestly, at this point I'm amazed that the others didn't do, or at least try to do, what Wheeler Walker Jr. sung about that applied to this situation. Which is, say, this job. Even considering that it has better work conditions than some workplaces in the back streets. In between destinations, of course. Hard to know who are more canaries in cages. The before team or the damn dozen. With the former, they go in there and scout it out and then send the latter. With the latter, they do the worst of the fighting and the after team do comparatively little of it, while retrieving what they were sent to retrieve. Anyway, Dante saw this as going much smoother if they were told where they were going from the start, but Virgilius felt the need to add comments like that before shutting them down and turning away. Yi-sang offered to bring aeng-du back up to date. After a while, he was successful in updating aeng-du about where they were going and why. And she was then standing next to Charon trying to give out proper instructions. Yep, that'll be an exercise in patience based on the last time someone tried that. And that was in chapter 1. aeng-du had... Well, she also had no problem with them taking the Black Still, as long as she was able to assist with their mission. After she instructed Charon to make a right turn, she was angered by them already setting up camp. Specifically, the Kurokumo Clan were guarding the entrance. She then rushed towards where Bamboo-Hatted Kim was. Faust shared her eagerness to proceed, as any further delays will only allow the distortion to grow more powerful. aeng-du was way ahead of them. Weapon at the ready, the others followed her, and they fought the Thumb affiliates. As the last of the exterior guards were killed, aeng-du seemed to relax briefly. Ryushu noting the aroma of blood, the splattered flesh, some old and growing viscous. She could already tell that there would be a collage of different blood splatters waiting for them in there. She was excited to see that collection for herself. aeng-du was slightly disturbed by the expression of brutal thoughts that Ryushu had. She did so with such nonchalance that, as one muses about their next meal. Well, what do you expect from one that's a blood knight with a fixation towards arts? Whatever the case, the way was open. They needed to move onward. She didn't linger there and entered the building. Gregor was impressed by her energy, as she was out cold a few minutes ago. Urutis recognized the sheer willpower moving her, due to her superior being captured. Honglu expected, from the name alone, that Yongjin building to be much taller than just 6 floors. Faust told him that it's a common naming convention in the backstreets. Dante looks up at the rooftop that Honglu was looking at and grew curious about it. Dante asked what time it was. Rodya asked if they needed a mirror. Dante informed her that that their head didn't tell time. Yeah, it's actually the Doomsday Clock, where the closer they are to midnight, the closer they are to something especially bad about to happen. Faust answered by saying it's 2:10 in the afternoon. Dante noting that it's not supposed to be this dark at this time of day, asking how can it be that gloomy at that time? They were losing their sense of time. Gregor noting that it seemed particularly darker around that area, although compared to the smoke war days, it's still bright as a sunny day. Urutis agreed with him. According to her image, when she uses her EGO outside the cell window, there's a similar backdrop to Gregor's, implying that she too was a smoke war veteran, although likely not under the same circumstances. According to Faust, the backstreets of District 20 are known to be in a perpetual state of murkiness. The machines of industry ceaselessly discharging heavy plumes of smoke which cloud the skies. That, along with the constant colour drainage, is why it's dark and murky there. Although it's improved since the smoke war due to various extensive prohibitive conditions introduced by the outcome of that war that limits smoke production, before the war, aeng-du told her to stop talking and come now. They came to where she was shouting at them from, as she was defeating more Kurokumo Clan members, who was surprised that there was any more blade lineage left. Heathcliff remarks on how she took them all out already. She saw them as mewling minions. Their bravado was larger than their combat proficiency. They stood their ground instead of retreating upstairs. Then the radio that Dante was carrying buzzed. They believed that someone was calling them. This was more clear when they unfolded the aerial. The radio called out to them, identifying themselves as from LCD. Ooh, that's a new department. They've not been mentioned before, wanting acknowledgement from the other side. The voice was upbeat and chaotic. They pressed the button on the radio. Dante talks, but they knew that the ones on the other side would not be able to understand. This amused the one on the other side, as they actually did tick-tock. They called Dante for a reason, to relay a message telling them not to bother responding. Dante understood. The one from LCD kept it short, as time was short. They were sent to retrieve the monolith, that black stele, that was sending a strong signal, forcing people to restore. Well, distort, yes. English failing me again. Sorry about that. This alarmed Ishmael. I mean, I certainly would be alarmed, considering that the monolith can force distortion to happen. LCD told them that they have to contain it before that seeping signal goes completely out of control. Then LCD revealed that they have things to do on their end as well, and told them to take no longer than they needed to. They shouldn't take longer than... Well, you get the idea. Not to take too long, before ceasing communication. Dante was silent after that, as the call ended before any of them could say anything, remarking on how lively she was. Heathcliff was annoyed by Dante, telling them that they need to crack on. Sinclair nervously told them that the elevator was broken. Aeng-du noting that they have a reason to hurry now. They need to break through their defensive lines, and rose through the stairwell. Dante noting that they don't have a choice in this. They put the radio back in their pockets and they all ran upstairs. After fighting their way up to the second floor, Gregor was struggling to catch his breath, and not just due to his clogged lungs caused by his nicotine addiction. As Roger saw that stairwell as a real challenge rather than the Kurokumo Clan. aeng-du asked if it was not curious. Heathcliff wanted to know what was. aeng-du told him that they filled the stairwell with weaklings who clearly didn't know what they were doing, theorizing that they weren't there to stop them from getting upstairs. They were actually afraid of going upstairs. She didn't think that it could be. And whatever she was thinking of was making her expression darken due to a possible bad omen. Don Quixote asked if she worries for her mentor, understanding to choose her words carefully. aeng-du asked how could she not? Bamboo-hatted Kim was on her mind, and Sinclair asked what kind of person was he? aeng-du felt conflicted, as though she was having trouble organizing her own thoughts. She shook her head and sighed. She told them that he was a steadfast man. He protected what needed protecting, killed what needed killing. He was one of the Blade lineage's finest. He was one of the most skilled swordsmen within the lineage, a man of few words who always sought to take good care of those under his wing. She then darkened her tone, saying that if only he didn't make that decision, her fellows would not have met such a terrible fate. This answered enough of Sinclair's question. He wanted to know what that decision was, though, but he knew that this was bad timing, so he stopped himself. aeng-du told them that, whichever may be the case, she had no choice but to make haste to his location. The others had no choice but to do so as well. As they fought through the Kurokumo Clan in the way, they encountered Pekatulum, distortions that appeared after the White Knights, specifically the ones tied to Wrath and Gloom, except they encountered larger variants of both in the way. They had to fight their way through those to get to the fourth floor, Dante asked if they just fought the Peccatula. Faust confirmed that they were. Yisang noted that they looked different to what they previously encountered. They were growing more acute. Faust described them as evolutions of each Peccatula. So they level up or have got to a specific condition to get them to evolve. That's some straight up Pokemon type. Anyway, she went on to describe them. That the kind of Peccatula one transforms into depends on the type of sin that one had embodied in life. So it's no surprise that there can be variations of them. Sinclair pointed out that they've not encountered anything like these evolutions before. Faust theorized that collecting the golden bars might have expedited the growth process. This was tiring Roger's mind. The golden bars have something to do with everything. Their job is starting to look more serious. Then Gregor wants to confirm some details, asking if the Peccatula are each supposed to represent some kind of sin. And this caught Dante's attention, making their thoughts grow distant, or rather, the damned dozen growing more distant to them, while their thoughts grew nearer. The voices of the damned dozen growing muffled, the word sin feeling oddly unfamiliar today. Yisang looking blurry to Dante, saying that the Peccatula have lost their sense of self, their original forms now forgotten to oblivion. Dante spoke of self, Gregor asking if distortions are similar to that. Then Sinclair spoke of some becoming distortions and some becoming Peccatula, asking what the difference was. Dante thinks that they know. They said, planted in the hearts of all are seeds with ever-present potential to bloom. Otis was noticing that something was wrong with Dante, and was drawing attention to their condition. Rodia wanted to know what she said. Faust talked over her, so she couldn't hear. Faust said that if she'll allow her to continue, maintaining the self even at times of extreme stress could cause one to become a distortion, and Dante said that when the light of the day descends upon the hearts of every human, blooming the seeds buried deep within. Ishmael was another that noticed that something was wrong with Dante. He said, if one's something devoured by sins, they are reborn in the form of the something, their image reflected the something, dreamt by those who are nothing. Both Faust and Yisang were starting to be concerned about Dante at this point. He then said, if one withstands something, yet something, their sins, the heart something. Heathcliff didn't know what the Dante was talking about. Aeng-du didn't like the sound of that, asking if something has gone awry with their prosthetic head. Dante meanwhile said, yet if one seeks to bear the something shall something of their original hearts. Honglu apparently heard part of what they said was EGO, asking what they were speaking of. Then Dante's head was burning, as if he made a deal with Mephisto and turned into Ghost Rider. They then said, in a world perceived through their own something, the something shall be unveiled to something, their egos something melts into something by something of sin. Yes, I know, there are gaps. Honglu thinks that Dante is speaking like his grandfather. Oh, So your grandfather has Alzheimer's, or has senility, as it's otherwise known as. Then he noticed Dante's head was burning, as did Utis. This brought out the pyromania in Ryushu, as in, yes! Burn! Sinclair was more worried about Dante's head exploding. Dante then said, only those who can define their own something. Heathcliff told them that they have to do something before Dante is killed by this, asking if anyone has any ideas. Don Quixote doesn't know what to do. Dante then said, only those who are awakened to their own something. When Don Quixote tried to get closer to Dante's head, she felt the heat, thinking that the flaming head was merely for style, only to discover that it wasn't. Ishmael asked Faust if they accidentally activated the self-destruct sequence, complaining about the heat, warning that if they don't douse the flames now, it's going to melt everything around them. Faust noted that the operating principle remains the same. Dante is where the golden bars, connected to the root of the sapling planted in the subterranean area of the Limbus Company HQ, well, which is to say that Heathcliff told her to shut up about the golden bars and ask how to douse the flames. Don Quixote asked if anyone had any water. They'd need to use that to douse the flames. Sometime later, Dante's condition, well, their condition was stabilized, and they feel awful. Don Quixote asked if they've recovered. They were lying on the ground, straining to open their eyes. Well, as it would seem to them, the others surrounding them. Dante asking what happened. Yisang asked if they know what happened. Dante didn't. They walked up the stairs, then they felt dizzy. Utis advised that they visit a workshop to get their head looked into as soon as they return. Dante asked if they malfunctioned. Ishmael told her not to talk about them as if they were a machine. Either way, there was nothing they could do about this, and at least not there. Faust told them that they can discuss this later once they return, as what happened just there, it doesn't appear to pose any hindrance to their mission. Then Dante asked where aeng-du was. Yisang told them that she advanced without them. While he is concerned about Dante's condition, they need to catch up with her urgently. Dante understood. Much wasn't understood though, but they'd need to get on with the operation that they were in the middle of. Yes, that took priority. This wasn't the first time that there was a head malfunction, as it happened in the April Fool's cutscene, which referenced different mobile games. Either this happens because Dante's head wasn't properly maintained, or it has something to do with the golden bars that, well, we don't have all the pieces yet, so hard to make a valid conclusion. Not that much longer to find out more about the situation. Until next time. Hail the rabbits!